Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your happy holiday hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and this is the show where we review all the anime series from the previous season we did and didn't watch start to finish. 2016 is drawing to a close, and so is the current anime season, which means we have also arrived at our last set of shows from summer season we want to discuss before we take a long break over the holidays. So I will talk about the new Berserk show, and we're gonna wrap up the episode with giving you our thoughts on both seasons of Active Rain. But first, John will bring a bit of sunshine to the table.
First up on today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about something near and dear to my heart, idols. Because, borrowing a phrase from a friend of mine, idol anime is serious business.
Mm-hmm.
What else could I be talking about other than...
Miura agrees with you.
He does. He does. He's a good man. I mean, maybe he could have gotten, your characters off the boat a little sooner, but he's a good man.
Yes.
But no, we're not talking about Miura's idol anime choice. We're talking about Love Live Sunshine.
Yes, not Idol Master. Not yet, anyway. I assume when a new one comes out, we'll be talking about that soon enough.
Yes. Unless they do an adaptation of Dearly Stars or Million Live, because they already did the original. They did Cinderella Girls. Boy, are there a lot of Cinderella Girls. Jesus.
But anyway, Love Live. I'm sorry.
But yes. No big deal. You talk about idols, you can't just brush one of them off. You got to talk about all of them at once. You know what? This entire show is just going to talk about idol anime. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
I'm do that too.
Okay, I'm out. See you next year. Bye, everyone.
Don't make me host this on my own. More to the point, Love Live Sunshine is the successor to the previous two seasons of Love Live, and it centers around a group of girls from high school, Uranohoshi Girls High School, and school is in danger of closing down because of low enrollment. So our main heroine, Chika, decides, hey, you know what's big right now? Coming full circle again. School idols. So, in order to make a name for themselves in the school to bring more attention to themselves, Chika and her friends form an idol group called Aqua, spelled Aqours, because
okay.
Japanese don't really have a concept of foreign languages. Sorry, guys, but it's kind of true. Don't
apologize.
I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm just speaking truths here. I mean, granted, our knowledge of various foreign languages is pretty limited as well, so you could say the same about us. But so yeah, it's a pretty basic story setup, and it's a very familiar story setup because it's pretty much copy pasted from the first series.
Yeah, and that was your big gripe, if I remember correct, our sneak peek. When Love Live came up.
Because if you're looking to Sunshine for something new and exciting and different as far as plot goes, you're looking in the wrong place. I'll tell you that for free.
So does it repeat the beats of the first series one after another, or are there at least some slight differences that make it worthwhile?
It comes pretty close, and like I said, it's predicated on, hey, do you remember Muse, the idol group from the first series? You remember them, right? Sure you remember them. We'll make sure you remember them, because Chico worships and idolizes them. She wants to be like them. And guys, okay, if you're going to make a series that's supposed to come after, be based on something else, at least try and make the plot distinguishable from what came immediately before it. And that's probably my one of my largest gripes with Sunshine. I'll just get my gripes out of the way so I can maybe talk about the things I liked about it.
Yeah, that would be nice. Maybe.
The other is So since it's an idol anime, there's music and dancing, and pretty standard fare. Kind of like with the previous Love Live, they couldn't decide on the dance routines if they wanted to go hand animated or CG. So it's like a weird hybrid of the two, and it's kind of jank, and it doesn't look great.
That's gonna be a running theme in this episode, I think.
That's true. I didn't think of that. The parts where it's like the hand drawn dancing scenes and they're posing, and it looks good. It looks great. And then you look at the CG parts, and it's like, you could have just gone full one way or full the other, because this is the studio that does Love Live is Sunrise, and we know they're pretty good at what they do most of the time anyway.
Depends on how much budget they have, and
and
if it's Gundam or that other show, or that runs that other Sunrise show that maybe runs in the same season, and most of the budget goes somewhere else. But they can deliver magic if they so choose to do so.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fan base for Love Live and how much everyone, loves it, no pun intended, I'm not sure, I sort of feel like they could have done better for the show than they did on that front. But, I mean, there was another idol anime from, it was in the summer season, I think, called Idol Memories, which I got through maybe 2 episodes of because the plot was non-existent. The dance scenes were entirely CG'd and just looked very Uncanny Valley bad. And, so I kind of, in case you were wondering about Idol Memories, it goes in the trash stash.
Not really worth doing an extra trash stash for that if you only watch like 2 episodes of it, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did they already do that mixture of hand-drawn and CG in the first Love Live series, or was that just fully hand-drawn?
Yeah, they did it there too.
Okay, but apparently it looked better there, or...
It looked about the same, really.
Okay.
And
so that's just a general gripe with the series.
Because, one of the big centerpieces of animation, the intro sequence, they did it there too, and it's like... Because, how can I word this? If you've ever played, let's take Kingdom Hearts as an example, because it's the first game that springs to mind. You have these cutscenes in the game where, the facial animations and everything look really good, and, it matches the words really well and looks great. And then you have other scenes where, they have, I think what a lot of people call pancake face animation.
Okay. I've never heard this before.
Where it's just like very flat and it's like a texture moving, when the camera is further away and when they don't have to focus on it as much. And there's a little bit of that with, the CG animation in both Love Lives, and it's not great.
I mean, especially when it comes to openings, it really depends on how you use that stuff. Look at the CG openings for JoJo's, like the first 3 arcs were CG openings, and I'm not a fan of that, but I'm of CG in general in anime. But I think those openings were great.
Yeah, because they made the characters look expressive and emotive, and it made it get you excited and hyped up because you're like, yes, this is how the characters look. This is their demeanors.
Also, exciting camera work and nice effect work in there, and very colorful
definitely.
And stuff like that. So yeah, you can do some nice things with CG, which I will also elaborate on later. But it all depends on how you handle it. And in most anime, it feels like they just, I don't know if they think it looks better. It's not necessarily cheaper. We've talked about that in the past. CG is mainly used to cut costs is a myth. That is definitely not always the case. Sometimes it's even more expensive. But I think a lot of the people using it sometimes legitimately think that it looks better. While
I'm not so sure about that, man.
yeah, exactly, and I don't agree with it at least. So and I don't know what it was in that case here, like in this case.
I mean, maybe it's an easier alternative just insofar that, it is a dance routine and it makes it easier to like mocap and choreograph. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I guess, especially if they don't want to reuse it. I guess if they just want to, if they want to use the same model but uses it for different routines every time, then it's maybe cheaper or more cost effective, maybe. But we need a better insight into the production to be a better judge of that. But apparently, again, it didn't work out that well in this case. So
yeah, I mean, if you're looking for an idol anime with actual hand-drawn, well-animated like dance routines, it's the Idol Master. It's definitely because A1 and Trigger and like the billions of other studios that poured their hearts into the series made them look great.
Okay. But if I'm not mistaken, the first season of Love Live was a big success, right?
Yes, definitely. It continues to be a success, even though all the original voice actresses have stepped down from their roles because they want to do other things with their lives, and I don't blame them.
But you said like it's kind of a direct sequel to the first series in the way that it's set in the same world, and the characters in Sunshine create their band because they're such big fans of the band from the first season.
That doesn't mean they had to be there.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. So they're not even in this. Like they're not. There's no meetup or anything. And like, hey, here are the old characters. Ha ha ha. Or
the girls from Sunshine do go to the other school from the first series, trying to, draw inspiration and whatnot. And like one of the students there was like, oh, the girls from Muse, basically moved on. They cleaned up everything that they had here. They didn't want to leave a trace. And it's like, that's convenient. That's very convenient writing. And even though I have issues with this, and even though I should throw in the trash stash, I'm not going to, because I still liked the characters a whole lot. Even though on the surface many of them look like P2 recolors, I feel like their personalities and quirks were at least distinguishable enough to like them for who they are, separate enough from the original cast.
Is there some depth in there, or is this more like, hey, here are your cute girls and they dance, and is there like any kind of struggle in that show?
I mean, yes, there is, because the main character Chica thinks, it's going to be easy to become top idols and draw attention to the school, and it's no, it's not. Because and this was another thing. This is one of the big things that really turned me around on the series, because Chica starts off being very like almost unflappably optimistic, and I was just kind of like, okay, all right, can we maybe move on with this? And then she kind of has that turnaround later in the series where she's like, maybe this isn't exactly, what I thought or how, I should go about it. And she kind of turns around and just, says to the others, I'm sorry that I thought this would be easy and all this and whatnot. And it makes her, I think, a little less one-dimensional.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a human reaction, a very human reaction. Does it evolve organically during the course of the series? Is it like the pressure just piles up and she has like this understandable break moment or something, or is it like
pretty much.
One episode she just turns around and says, "No, I don't think this will work out." So, does it do a good job of bringing across like why she's turning around at a certain point?
Yeah, I mean, you like start to see signs of it, and then it just sort of happens after it starts piling on more and more that she's like, I messed up. Maybe we need to rethink what we're doing. and they all sort of everyone rallies around, and they just kind of get back together and figure out what they were doing wrong, and got to get back on top of things.
Mm-hmm. So there's drama in there, but it doesn't feel forced.
Right.
That's cool. I like that.
And like I said, there's one moment in particular that wasn't with Chica. It's with one of the other characters, Rico. So Chica has this big, lazy dog, just, a big fuzzball. And
I'm in.
And the first time Rico goes to Chica's house, she just catches the dog out of the corner of her eye, and she's like, and you can tell she has a very marked fear of this dog, even though, it's just like this big marshmallow. And there's one scene where she's walking through the hallways, and the dog is right in the middle. So what does she do? She, props herself up between the walls to try and climb over the dog. And it's just, there's little moments like that strewn about the show that really give the characters some great personality.
Cool.
if like I said, if you're not going to come for the overall plot, the interactions between the characters and their relationships definitely are worthwhile. That's for sure.
Does it set itself up for a sequel with that cast of characters, or is it like a self-contained season?
I feel like Sunrise could probably find a way to make another season somehow.
But should they? Would you watch it? That's,
I don't know. Maybe not.
You weren't exactly, you weren't exactly hating the series, but you didn't feel like it was necessary to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of felt like, hey, I'll check it out because it's more Love Live. I like to Love Live. That was pretty much my attitude going into it because, like I said, it was sort of a, do we need more?
Just, another bowl of decent comfort food.
Pretty much.
All right.
So, show was directed by Kazuo Sakai. He's done some other things in there for Sunrise. Like, he did some work on Gundam Age, for better or for worse. I know that's a very hot and cold Gundam series for a lot of people.
Me included.
Yeah. Still better than G-Reco.
What isn't?
Did some work on Gundam Build Fighters, so that's very close to my heart again. Did some work on Psychopaths, actually. So Sakai has been around the block, as it were. And since, it is an idol anime, music is very important. A lot of the music was written by Tatsuya Kato, who's done music for Buddy Complex, Prisma Ilia, Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere. Just it's done a lot of big name stuff that's pretty much worth watching, I'd say. Mm-hmm. The cast, they were great. I mean, I believe most of them are like new or newish to this series. There's some side characters that are bigger names, like if you recognize names like Kana Sumi or Kana Ito. But yeah, the cast did deliver on great performances all around.
So if one wanted to watch like the best idol anime out there, what season of what series would you personally, as an idol anime fan, recommend? Just as a final thought here.
I'm going to make you go back to the Idol Master with that one. Even though this is supposed to be talk about Love Live.
Yeah, but still,
But again, the problem with there's nothing inherently wrong with the first. First off, let me be clear and say not Xenoglossia, not that one, because that was Sunrise trying to take it and turn it into a weird mecha anime, and it didn't work out in the least.
Okay.
I'm talking about the one that was done like I said earlier, A1 and Trigger. The problem with that show is it's kind of a series that's by fans for fans. So while it is great and has amazing production values, you kind of have to have at least a working knowledge going into it.
From the games, or?
At least of who the characters are.
Oh, okay. So you at least have to read up on that or something, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So higher barrier of entry. So is it easier?
I mean, slightly higher, not super high.
If you don't want to read up on it, maybe start with the first season of Love Life instead, or would that be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's just, it is what it is. There's no pre-existing material before that.
I think my max involvement in idol anime will be Macross Delta.
Yeah.
That was a good one. So there you go.
It was. So, I mean, if you're a Love Live diehard, I mean, I'm probably not going to be able to stop you from watching it, and there's no reason to stop you from watching it, because, again, it is, as Cece just said, a comfort food anime. But if you're not already in there, you just probably watch the original shows if you're really actually interested in it, and kind of pass on this. Again, I don't feel like it's trash stash worthy. It kind of sits on the rim of the trash can, and it's kind of ready to fall off and onto the floor, as it were.
Kentaro Miura's long-running manga series Berserk has been around for quite a while, 1989 to be exact. This is when he started that long-running and rather popular franchise. Several attempts of adaptations have been undertaken, and the newest one is from summer season 2016 in the form of a new TV show. This is not the point to get into the series, though, in my opinion. So, first and foremost, we had an adaptation, an anime series from in 1997, which is probably, until recently, the Berserk thing that most people were familiar with. I think a lot of people saw that old show, and while not well animated, it was beloved by a lot of people, I think. I've heard it mentioned in positive light, and from very different sources. I don't know. Did you watch the old series, John?
I started to once upon a time, but I just couldn't really get into it. So,
okay.
But I know a lot of people love Berserk, and they've been waiting on the one adaptation to rule them all.
Yeah. So I don't. The problem is, I started following the series so long ago that I don't remember what I started with, actually. I don't know if I watched the old series first or if I started with the manga. I think No, I'm not sure. I really am not sure anymore. I'm an old man with an old brain. Anyway, yeah. So, like I said, old series not very well animated, but it's still, I don't know, good performances, and the story is adapted rather well, so it's not the worst thing to enter. But how the story of Berserk works, first of all, it's set like in this fictional country of Midland, which is kind of inspired by medieval Europe. You got knights and like big wars fought between knights and mercenary groups and different countries. It's a bit like Game of Thrones, to choose a very current comparison. Just, with even more fantasy elements, especially the further series progresses. And the main character, Guts, is a young boy who grows up on the fields of war and battle, and he swings a sword that, even in his younger years, is already ridiculously big. Although it gets even crazier later on. He gets like this giant chunk of metal, basically like this log of metal that in new series sounds like every time it hits an enemy, it sounds like they got hit with a boat anchor or something.
God damn.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's called the Dragon Slayer, at least his new one. Anyway, so his fighting prowess and attitude get the attention of Griffith, the charismatic leader of the On the Rise mercenary group, Band of the Hawk. By the way, I have to throw that in there. There will probably be spoilers in this review for the first series and the first movie, the three movies that got made in 2012 and 2013, just because how the story progresses in the manga and in the adaptations, but I'll get on that later. Anyway, so Guts gets the attention of Griffith, impresses him with how he fights and stuff like that. But since Guts has like this pretty asshole-ish attitude and doesn't really want to deal with people, Griffith has to actually beat him in a one-on-one fight to make him join his band of the Hawk. But yeah, he does that because Griffith is a formidable fighter as well, and also a cunning tactician and everything. And yeah, once Guts joins his group, they eventually become good friends. And pretty much one of the most powerful and feared forces on the battlefield. Get the attention of a lot of powerful people for good and worse. But yeah. Griffith is incredibly ambitious, and when Guts decides that he doesn't want to be part of that ambition anymore and leaves the band of the Hawk for good, Griffith is driven over the edge and makes some bad decisions that get most of his men killed, him imprisoned, tortured, and his body and spirit turned into a broken mess. And after the remainder of the band of the Hawk, the people who didn't get killed, led by Guts and Griffith's second in command, Casca, and they break out their leader. They escape like in this really nice choreographed giant escape with on horseback and with a carriage and everything. And sadly, their escape culminates in Griffith betraying every one of his former friends by sacrificing them. Griffith owns an old artifact called the Beolith, and he wasn't aware that this thing, which is basically just this stone or necklace that looks like a face with a lot of eyes and noses and everything, and this Beolith is like also the name Egg of the Conqueror, I think, and this thing can summon, if you're willing to offer a strong enough wish, can summon like demonic creatures called the God Hand, and from another dimension that is kind of like this hellish thing, and they look very hellish. They look like the worst demons from hell you can imagine, basically. And yeah, Griffith calls upon the power of the Beolith without actually knowing what he's doing, and gets offered the power to conquer everything, become like the mightiest existence on Earth. And well, he broken in body and spirit and kind of feeling betrayed by Guts and everything, strikes that deal. And the cost of making him that powerful force is everyone in his band of Hawk getting killed, everyone who is left. And the only ones getting out of that mess, called the Eclipse, are Casca and Guts, but also broken. Casca in spirit and Guts in body. He loses an arm, an eye, and is damaged also psychologically because of what they experienced. And yeah, this is the story, the origin story of Guts, of the main character. But we don't learn that origin story in the manga until like a few chapters and volumes have passed. The manga basically starts in media res with Guts already, being an adult and everything, and, going through the land and slaying these monsters called apostles, which are basically, the apostles of the God Hand, kind of. They're like these demons roaming the earth, and, he slays them. And he is also, of course, searching for Griffith because he wants a revenge on him for doing what he did. And yeah, that's how the manga starts. And then after a few volumes, we get into that flashback chapter and basically learn everything that I just told you about. And that's called the Golden Age arc. And that Golden Age arc was basically told already in the old series, and in 3 movies that got made around 2012 and 2013. And yeah, basically both those adaptations covered that specific storyline. The old series is shows a bit of the start of the manga as well, but not too much, and then it goes into the Golden Age arc and basically stops after the Eclipse happened, which was when watching that old series, for a lot of people a big problem because it ends on a major cliffhanger because you don't get to know what happens to Guts and Kiaska and everyone else after, you know, that horrific event took place. So everyone was looking forward to a new adaptation of the stuff. Then the movies came out, and it was again the adaptation of the old stuff. And it was like, man, we want to see, you know, what happens afterwards. Give us a new TV series or, you know, something that brings the story forward.
Then this new series was an actual step forward.
Yes, in that regard, it was.
Okay.
The new series picks basically up immediately after what happens in the movies, the new movies. So after the eclipse and after Kiaska and Berserk, right, and Guts get escape from the Godhead and everything. I've already spoiled pretty much all of the origin story, but I don't want to go into more details there, just to keep a few surprises there, why they escaped and everything. So yeah, also that would consume too much time to explain that. Anyway, but yeah, the new series picks up there. Guts leaves Kiaska with a good friend of his, a weaponsmith, who like also forged his giant ass sword, his dragon slayer, and he goes and searches out apostles and is trying to find Griffith and kill him. Basically, that's his mission, and that's how the series starts. And yeah, we go from there. He meets up, without going into much details here, he meets up a whole lot of new people. Basically, gets a lot of new characters are introduced in this series, which is like this new start in the manga, where where we get our Fellowship of the Ring together. That Guts assembles basically, and that help him on his mission. And yeah, that's where the series starts. So it's kind of a good entry point, but it kind of isn't, because there's like this giant backstory that you need to know about to connect to the characters. So I don't know. It's difficult to recommend this as an entry point to the series just in itself, because it kind of starts a big new chapter in the storyline. It's a good entry point, but then again, if you haven't watched any of the old stuff, you don't have like the knowledge that, makes you feel for Guts and his mission and everything.
Now, does it make a difference if you watch the old series or the movies?
No, it doesn't make much difference, but you kind of need to watch the last movie, because at the end of the old series you don't learn what happened to Kiaska and Guts and how they got out of the eclipse and everything, and that's covered in the old movie. So yeah, in the new movie. So if you want a direct connection to the new series, you kind of need to at least watch like the last 10 minutes of the third movie. But aside from that, yeah, it doesn't really matter what series you watch. If you watch the old series or the movies, I would say the movies are a bit more condensed, but they look better, at least in certain parts. Are a bit more well animated than the old series. But then again, you have the same problem with the movies that you have with this new series, and that is that there's a lot of CG in those movies, and even more CG in this new series. And if you're not a fan of that, maybe go with the old series before you dive into this. And yeah, I want to talk about the CG, because that is like a big bummer for me, of course. It's my biggest gripe with this new adaptation. While in the movies, it already didn't look good. It looked cheap and choppy. It's a typical cheap, choppy anime CG with the stiff character models and everything. It looks so much worse in the series because it operates not on a movie budget, but on a TV budget. And while in the movies it was like mainly the foot soldiers and and everything that looked bad, like your typical goons who operate on a really low frame rate and everything, and the main characters were okay. This series in general looks like ass, in my opinion. Like total ass. It looks horrible. Like I said.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch it, but I've seen enough clips of it to have that made plainly apparent.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, stiff character movement, low frame count. The characters look lifeless most of the time and move around very awkwardly and clumsily, especially when there's no action on screen. Like when you have these scenes where the characters just talk and you, I don't know, to make them more, to empathize more with them, you would need like some small facial gestures and everything that makes the characters more relatable and makes them more human and everything. And you don't really get that with the CG, and if they try it, it doesn't really work. Some of the close-ups and important character moments are animated traditionally, or hand-drawn, but they are very sparse and make the shitty lifeless CG stand out even more. Like, it's only like 5% of the show. I think they're gonna redraw some of the scenes for the Blu-rays. I've seen some screenshots where some of the things that were CG before are now hand-drawn, but I don't think that doesn't erase the general problem with the show. For that, they would have to completely reanimate it, make it completely hand-drawn. No CG anymore in there. But this, every time they switch to like a scene where you have a hand-drawn character model, it's like, oh my god, this looks so much better. Even if it's done by Leiden Films, but still, it looks so much better than the CG stuff. And it's jarring. And then they go back to the CG stuff, and you're like, oh my god, no. Oh, Jesus Christ, why do these characters move so stiffly? It's horrible. And there have been a lot of gifs coming out of this series that make this so apparent. And yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, just in terms of basic presentation, that show looks like ass. Looks really shitty, in my opinion. The only upside to this choice of presentation is the animation freedom when it comes to wild and imaginative camera movements. And Berserk actually managed to shine in that regard, at least sometimes. The camera is pretty much always moving during battle scenes, which, despite the shitty animation, can make the fights look very dynamic and engaging. Sometimes Shin Itagaki, the director, he worked on stuff like Bento, Black Cat, and TQ. He goes a bit overboard. Like, there's like so much camera movement. It's like, please concentrate on one fucking character. Don't stop moving the camera around. It gets a bit ridiculous sometimes, but that doesn't happen too often. Most of the time, the wild camera does a really good job to compensate for the stiff CG in the battle scenes. You can't use that crazy camera in standard conversations and everything, because that would be dumb. And then the flaws of the use of that kind of CG really, are really apparent. But like I said, in the battle scenes, the camera movement compensates for a lot. For example, there's this great shot of God swinging his sword through like a bulk of enemies. And what they do is they put the camera on the tip of his sword and then make it circle around while he circles his sword around. And it's like this really, really engaging and energetic, well-shot scene. And like, yeah, this is how you use the fucking CG. This is cool stuff. This is good-looking stuff. This is really... You don't see stuff like that with traditional hand-drawn animation, because it would probably be too costly and too hard to animate and stuff like that. So, yeah, do more of that. That's cool stuff. I want to see that. And
that sounds really neat.
Yeah, that was a great scene. It was also framed very well. The music was on point. It was a great character moment, because it's like this moment where Guts comes out of nowhere and is like saving some of his friends and stuff like that. And it's like this really cool entry moment, dynamic entry, to quote Naruto for some reason. But yeah, it's that's good stuff, and that stuff happens more often in the series than I expected. And I was like, yeah, good. More of that, please. And if they just would refrain from, cutting the frames from this CG, because they think it doesn't mix well with the, hand-drawn backgrounds and everything, just don't do it. It looks shit either way, but if the frames are not, if it's not a low frame count, the frames are not cut, at least the CG itself doesn't look as shit. So yeah. I understand why they're doing what they're doing in terms of, using lower frame CG so that it matches up with the hand-drawn animation scenes, but still, it makes the CG look so much worse. And it's not worth it. So, yeah. That's my 2 cents on CG again. But like I said, there's some good stuff in that series, and the camera movement is one of them. For that, maybe it's worth checking out. I was not a fan of the music by Shiro Sagisu. It sometimes doesn't match what's going on in the scene. It's just, loud. I don't mind that in general. Like, sure, give me some loud metal. I love that stuff. But it has to match the scene. And sometimes just feels, now action scene, incredibly loud music starts blaring without any context and, without matching what exactly is happening on screen. It felt a bit too much. I don't know if there's actually much more to say about this show or this first season. It's still Berserk. The characters are all great and pretty unique and are worth checking out. And the story is interesting and well told. Like I said, it starts out basically at the end of the first 3 movies, but we get like this. The first episode is basically the start of the manga. Then it skips, like, for some reason, 3 volumes worth of story that is not the Golden Age arc. Then it skips the Golden Age arc, and then it continues on. So I don't know why they decided to skip over those other 3 volumes. If they wanted to get to some of the more important stuff, I found that to be kind of sad, because there was some neat character building moments between Guts and the fairy Puck, the fairy boy Puck. That they become friends in the first chapter of the manga, or acquaintances. Guts helps Puck out in a difficult situation, and Puck decides to stick around. And because Guts has this uplifting personality around him all the time, he warms up a bit, finds a bit more back to his former self and stuff like that. And that happens in those volumes they skipped. So it's kind of like, we're missing some important character building here. So I don't know why they did that. I wish they wouldn't have done that. But apparently they felt like they needed to do that for the sake of pacing. That is my guess. Anyway. And yeah, aside from that, it follows the manga pretty faithfully from a certain point on. And I assume second season has already been announced, I think. And I assume they're going to continue that trend. There are some scenes in there that are and moments that are condensed. Again, probably for the sake of pacing. But aside from that, it's pretty faithful. And the important battles are in there. The important characters are in there. So yeah, it's in that regard, it's a pretty good adaptation. If it weren't for the presentation, I would be pretty happy with this series. But alas, it's what we got. And I would recommend the manga over the anime. Definitely. That's still, even after the old series, even after the movies, even after this new series, the manga is still the go-to material. Yes, it's not animated, and I'm also a person that would, rather watch the anime over reading the manga, because I love animated stuff. I like to see the things in motion. I'd like to see them voice acted. Also, the cast in the show is great, so I can't complain about that. But yeah, I'd like to see that. But in this case, go for the manga, because not only is the presentation shitty in itself because of the CG and everything, but also it's really, really hard, and that's not the series' fault or any of the series and movies' fault. It's really hard to bring Kentaro Miura's artwork into animation, because he is a fantastic artist, and he does these really detailed, crazily detailed drawings of characters, of fighting scenes, of monsters, of landscapes. A lot of that stuff that is drawn is in the manga, especially in the later parts. You could just put in a frame and hang in your room as legit art. This is fucking beautiful. it's also horrifying because Berserk is a incredibly dark and violent series. But it's in its darkness and in its horror, it's beautiful. It's just, he's just a master of his craft, and yeah, fantastic. He has to be, I guess. That's why he takes so many breaks, I assume. Also, Idol Master.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not half the fan you are, but I have seen some of Miura's art, and it's incredible how detailed it is.
It's striking, right? I mean,
yeah.
And it's especially great if you start at the beginning of the series where, you know, some of the faces still look a bit, I don't know, simple or weird. And some of the action scenes, the movement of the arms and the legs, and some of the stuff looks still a bit clumsy or stuff like that. And then you maybe go to the last manga he published and you're like, holy fucking shit.
Just seeing that evolution, yeah.
Yeah, it's a painting. Yeah, exactly. He's an artist that has evolved in terms of his craft, like to an incredible level. It's fantastic to just. It's just, even if, you know, for the last few chapters or volumes there hasn't been happening too much story wise, it's still great to read those books because there's so much stuff to look at. It just, you know, his art is fantastic, and it's really hard to put that into animation. The only studio after, you know, watching One Punch Man, and after watching Mob Psycho 100, I think Bones, with the staff of Mob Psycho 100, would be maybe the only one who would be able to kind of come close to the organicness, to the life that is in the drawings of Miura, to put that into animation, because you need a certain kind of looseness and roughness to it to, you know, make to come even close to what he is putting on the pages of his manga. So yeah, I doubt we'll ever see that kind of adaptation, because that would be, I could die happily, I guess, after I've seen that. Anyway, but yeah, for now, like I said, if you want to get into this franchise, and I recommend you getting into that franchise because it's a fantastic series, if you are not, you know, faint of heart, if you can take your an incredible amount of blood and violence and gore and everything, you need a strong stomach for that series, because yeah, it's really, really bloody.
My tolerance is not nearly as high as yours for that.
Yeah, and I don't know. You have gone through JoJo's, but I think Berserk is still on another level.
I mean, JoJo's and like even Danganronpa, which still has some very moments to it. Even those, I have to, you know, kind of a little bit.
Yeah, and Berserk, it's not only the imagery, it's also the themes that are tackled that are very dark, and you know, there's a lot of psychological violence, there's a lot of physical violence, and you know, dark ages. Dark ages in pseudo Europe. What do you think was going on back then? And yeah, so it's a very very dark and sometimes very cynical series, but I fucking love it. It's for many different reasons, mostly because of the universe that Miura has crafted and the characters. I just love the characters in this series so much. The character writing, even for the many side characters, is not flawless, but close to it, in my opinion. It's great. It's really, really worth getting into the series, even as it progresses at a very slow pace at the moment. Like, we get like maybe one new volume each year at most. And yeah, but to find a finish point here, don't get into the series by watching this TV show, because I wouldn't want that to be your first time experience with Berserk. I really don't. I know there's a second season coming, and yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna watch it, but I wish they would have, you know. And I don't think the first season was very successful, so I wish they would have just, you know, cut all ties, started over, and maybe not with the Golden Age arc again, but started from the beginning of the manga with a new team, favorably a really good studio like Madhouse or Bones with a good budget. I know that's delusional on my account, but I can't see at the moment this series getting so good that I'm content with it, especially not with this kind of choice when it comes to presentation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a downer, but that's the way it is. And I am sorry that I have to close this review on this negative note, but that's how it is. It's in itself, it's a pretty good adaptation, story-wise, character-wise. It's all fine. It's all close to the source material. But the presentation is like this huge, glaring downside that cannot be ignored. And I'm really sad that that's the Berserk thing we got after all this time. Looking forward to, new material getting adapted. But that's how it is.
So the last show on the docket today is the 2 seasons of Active Raid that aired this year.
Yeah, and that show has eluded me for quite a while. I only recently got around to finishing up, I think I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes, and then took a giant break, and now I just today finished the final episode of season 2 and could put my thoughts down on it. But yeah, Active Raid is set in not so distant future Japan, Tokyo to be exact, I think.
Yeah.
And it covers the adventure of the special action unit. Wait, what was it called? Unit 8.
Yeah, it was called Active, and there was a big long acronym for it.
Yeah. So it's like this special police force or special subsection of the police called Unit 8. At least in the unit that we are observing in this particular story, and they cover these crimes that the normal police can't handle, and that mostly includes crimes that are committed by people who are equipped with a new form of full body suit called Willwear. It's basically a mecha suit that gives people special powers. I think it's in the context of the universe, it's mostly used for construction work or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
dangerous jobs. There's
different types of Willwear, and I mean, I'd say rather than mechs, they're more like powered armor sort of dealings.
Stuff like Bubblegum Crisis. Don't know what they call the suit there. But yeah, or the suits in Kamen Rider, and that is actually a good.
It's a good analog, yeah.
Good analog because this might as well be a tokusatsu show, or live action tokusatsu show. It is a tokusatsu show, just in anime form. As you got everything in there that you have in these shows as well. You have your different colored armors. You get your police force who have move around a special vehicle. It's kind of this mix of a truck and a train in this case that moves around on rails mostly, but can be picked up by small helicopter drone and moved around too. But yeah, they operate from there, and then when there is a mission awaiting, they get into the special room and in an elaborate animation sequence put on their special special body suits, all with different abilities. Some are one of our main characters, Kuroki, he is the red suit guy who usually in tokusatsu and Super Sentai stuff is the leader, but it's not that clear cut in this show actually, at least when it comes to team dynamics. But yeah, he's the brash, fist fighter guy, and that's the strength of his suit can also fly, or at least glide. And you got the blue suit from the other character, one of the other main characters who is called Senna, and it's like this blue suit, and he's like a sniper specialist and stuff like that. And you got many different suits with many different capabilities, and to match the specific characters.
Senna and Kuroki very much play off of one another because Senna is very tactical. And he's like, "Oh, we have to play in this zone." And Kuroki's like, "I just want to get out there and punch something.
Yeah,
just let me do it."
Yeah, exactly. They're very much the archetypes of the corresponding color-coded tokusatsu or Super Sentai archetypes. You know, you got the, like I said, the brash red ranger type, and the more collected, maybe in Senna's case, a bit fussy or very very orderly guy in the blue suit. And you know, that has been a staple of those series for a very long time, and it's in this show as well. So in that regard, you know what you're getting. A bit more outlier in that regards are your female characters, because one of the team members, and one of the youngest team members, is, at least when it comes to appearance, is Rin. She's the leader of the team, actually. The boss. I first assumed when I saw the series, I thought the old guy, I forgot his name, that he would be was the leader, like this typical old police chief guy. But he's actually
Funasaka, right?
Yeah, Funasaka. Yeah, he's actually one of the
I'd say he's pretty much like second in command of the unit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but still, Rin is the leader, and she's, very capable and everything, and it's an interesting mix-up of dynamic. And also pretty much everyone in this unit has his or her own suit, which is also not that common. Usually in those kind of shows, you're limited to, I don't know, 2 to 5 characters having the suits, and then maybe some antagonists and stuff like that. But yeah, this is... No, every fucking one in this unit has a suit, which is
Even
cool.
the new girl.
Yeah, especially the new girl gets like this really shiny new pink suit kind of, which is also pretty cool. And yeah, and Rin has a yellow suit and stuff like that. And yeah, the suits themselves are the will wear all look pretty cool, in my opinion. The design is pretty distinctive and unique. Haruka. Your resident train otaku and bus otaku. I don't understand. What the hell? I guess that was for, I don't know, connection for some of people watching that show.
I mean, trains are cool. I'm not so sure about buses. But...
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like they were catering to a specific kind of audience here with her character. Also, their main command vehicle being kind of a train thing. Anyway, yeah, she has like the suit that looks kind of like a dog, or the helmet does.
Yeah.
And Rin's suit moves around very fast. So yeah, many different will wear suits, many different characters, and the main plot of the series is them stopping crimes committed by people who wear who commit acts of terrorism and other crimes with will wears. They're mostly provided by them by an organization called Logos. And it's not clear in the beginning what Logos is actually trying to do. It just seems like they want to cause mischief in the beginning. You got your 3 main evil guys who operate by code names called Mythos, Dog, and Bird. And that gets elaborated on later, but much later than I would have liked, actually.
It's definitely a very slow, labored start.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the first season consist of Unit 8 stopping, some people who have been provided with willware by Logos and going around and doing crimes and stuff like that. And then at the very end of the first season, there's some developments, and we get to learn the origin of some of, or the background story of some of the characters, especially Mythos, which was also kind of a problem for me. I had kind of a few problems with the show, actually, and his background story was a big one for me because it felt so vague and so I couldn't connect to it at all. Like, it was just mentioned in passing why he does what he does, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'd like to have actually seen that and see his reason come to exist, and not just getting that told by other characters.
There are a lot of weird absences in the exposition, in addition to the odd pacing of the plot.
Yeah, there's a lot of tell instead of show, and that is always a bad decision when it comes to, in operating in film and TV and stuff like that. You shouldn't resort to that very often unless you absolutely have to. And in this case, they didn't. They decided to tell us about this instead of showing us, and thus it feels like, I don't know, his motivation and everything feels really lacking, and thus his character doesn't turn out as interesting as he could be. There's a bit of comeuppance for that in the second season, but still not enough in my opinion to warrant his lackluster development in the first season. And lackluster development is to be frank a problem that this show is cursed by in general, because all the characters in this show feel pretty flat in my opinion. There are a few exceptions. There are some character moments, for Koriki and for Senna that, give them a bit of, I don't know, that make them at least sympathetic to you. Not that they're super unsympathetic from the beginning or anything, but, give them a bit of depth. But it's mostly them interacting with other characters, and those other characters having a more interesting story that gives them, the bit of depth, but they don't have super interesting background stories. I think the most interesting thing about Senna is that he was dating that chick from the USDF.
Yeah. And then they make a point of him trying to constantly avoid her.
Yeah, and we don't learn much more about him. He has a rather interesting episode where he builds this relationship with an illegal immigrant later on in the second season. And that's a cool episode in itself, just because of that self-contained story. But it's more, it's interesting because of that story. And he's an interesting character in that particular story, but not because of his background or anything, or his motivation or his writing or stuff like that. It's just the story in itself is pretty decent. Yeah, and that counts for all the other characters too.
I kind of really feel like one of the only other characters that we got some level of insight on was Rin. Yeah.
Rin got some nice interaction with her sister. Is she her twin sister? Because they look incredibly alike, but I think she's supposed to be much younger.
Yeah, her sister is quite a number of years younger, as I recall.
That is weird. They look way too alike, which is kind of, I don't know. I didn't understand it, because otherwise the character designs are pretty distinctive. The character designer is Shun Saiki. I mentioned him in my review of Food Wars. He is the creator of Food Wars, and he also did the character designs for this show. And he does cool character designs, and they're pretty unique and distinctive and interesting and stuff like that. But those two, I sometimes didn't know who was on screen, and maybe that was intentional. But holy shit. Yeah, way too much alike. Looked way too much alike. Anyway, but yeah, they got some neat interactions, showing them being sisters and having a loving relationship and everything. So, and she has an important part to play in the latter half of the second season. Not only because she's the leader of the team, but how this, in terms of how the story progresses, without spoiling anything, because actually, as slow as the story moves, the last few episodes of the second season are pretty interesting. The plot actually starts to go somewhere, and that's the wrap up was okay in my opinion. It wasn't anything super special, but they actually managed to tie up or to bring the different story threads that they set up together in a rather satisfying ending, in my opinion.
I mean, for the most part, yeah, but there was one kind of smaller thread that they left hanging and didn't really address. I don't know if they're gonna bring it up in maybe an OVA later on or something, but how they were talking about Jiro Bird, his sister, and there was something going on with that in the background, and they kind of only mentioned it in a very cursory manner, but it seemed like something that should have been a bigger deal than it was. But then again, that kind of encapsulates a lot of the storytelling in the series anyway.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the stuff feels like, okay, we're setting this up to be concluded later or to make sense later, and then they never get to it seems. Yeah, the stuff with the sister you mentioned, and also that really threw me for a loop there. The girl in the series that appears in pretty much every episode in one scene, and then later appears, and only in the final episode of the second season you learn what her job is, but not really, and that the pickpocket. Yeah. And it's like, who is this fucking girl? Why is she there all the time? What does this mean? Who is that? Is that a cameo from some other series that director did or something? They took way too much time to make her important or something. And even in the end, it feels just like a setup for a new season. So maybe we're gonna get a third season, and all of that is gonna make sense. The story in itself is not really finished. It's just that specific part of the story that was set up in the beginning is kind of came to a close that made sense and doesn't feel like it's super super open.
Yeah, I mean, my other big gripe about the very very end of the series is it was abrupt, man.
Yeah, it felt pretty abrupt. I mean,
you get a literal congratulations hard cut to credits. Wait, what? Hold on, what?
Yeah. It definitely feels like there will be a new season coming, and maybe there has already been one announced, and we're just not aware of it. But
I hadn't heard anything, but I guess it's possible.
Yeah, but just the story that they set up in with the machinations that what Logos did and everything felt like, okay, we know who kind of instigated that. That's not the end of it, but okay. Now we know why this happened, but we don't know. We still don't know all about the characters we want to know. To be honest, we know very little about any of the characters, and I hope they really do something with that if there's a new season coming. Because so far it feels really lackluster. Actually, they could have done most of that story in one season. This didn't need to have two seasons.
Yeah.
With the story they told, this definitely didn't need to have two seasons. A lot of the story of the episodes in this are pure filler. They at least feel like it. I like some of the filler or semi-filler. I think the best two episodes in the series are in the first season. The one with the Haruka episode with the guy who wants to save his daughter.
Right.
There was a strong episode, and the weirdly enough, the episode with the giant robots was also pretty strong. Was emotional and was just nice. That was a nice episode.
Yeah, that one that had some great moments.
Yeah, so there was good stuff in this show. It was just between all that good stuff was so much filler that just you while watching it, you knew this isn't important. There is maybe one scene in this episode that was important to the overall plot. And aside from that, we don't get any character development. We don't get an interesting side story. And too much filler in this show. It is
very scatterbrained, as it were.
Yeah. So, not a fan of that. Really not a fan. Like I said, one season for all they had to say would have been enough. What also stuck out was, to me, that is one of those shows that has revised openings. It seems like when they started, or each season, their openings weren't finished, and it was like these placeholder opening animations in the beginning, and then just after episode 3 or 4, they started showing the real opening with sound effects and everything. It was like, okay, there we go.
I just want to throw it on the table that is one of my least favorite things about the anime openings, when they have to feel the need to layer sound effects onto it. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. It takes away from the visual. It takes away from the song. It's not good, man. Okay.
It doesn't bother me that much if they don't do it all the time. I don't remember if they did here. But still, the anime, there was, after the third or fourth episode of each season, we finally got an opening that had actual animation in it. I think before that it was mostly just still frames, and just and scenes. And in case of season 2, it was just scenes from season 1 with a filter over it. So I don't know.
There were some other shows this year that kind of did that at first, but then got their act together at least. So I mean, what I'm a really big fan of with intros is that as the series goes on, you get subtle changes made to it to reflect what's happening in the show. That's cool, and I really dig that.
They also did that too in the openings.
Yeah,
there's like
a little bit, not as much as some other shows, though.
No, there's some in the first season, some of the willware is not immediately shown when they do the revised opening. It's only in shadows.
That's right. I forgot that.
Yeah, and after they reveal that in the episode, they show the suits in the actual opening. So they did that, but it's not on the level of, I don't know, JoJo's again. JoJo does some of the best stuff with its revised openings, in my opinion.
I mean, that's right. One of the intros that really did that she was Erased.
Erased was also fantastic, yes. Yeah, in that regard.
Yes,
so, more of that.
Since we both have our issues with CG, what did you think about the animation on the willware?
It wasn't as bad as as in Berserk. I know that's not saying a lot.
That's kind of a low bar.
Yeah, it's just it's the same problem mostly, but the good thing is they're only using it for the suits and for the willware itself. So it's not as bad because it's not in your eye all the time. The rest is hand-drawn animation. And even when there's CG using it for the suits, in certain parts, they make good use of it. The camera movement is not as creative and imaginative as it is in Berserk, which was the only real good part of the presentation in that series. But there are some standout fight scenes here and there that, make it look really dynamic in conjunction with the use of the CG on the suits. The final battle in the second season comes to mind. That looked fantastic. That looked really good. That reminded me of Majestic Prince, which I still consider one of the best shows in that regard. Like making the best use of TV anime CG when it comes to fight scenes. Like the fights in Majestic Prince, at least the important ones look fucking fantastic. And the final fight in Season 1 and Season 2 of Active Raid also look really good. But aside from that, it's the same problem, same choppy animation for the suits most of the time. And also the fight scenes are really short in the series. There's not that much happening. Aside from those 2 scenes I mentioned at the end of both seasons, not impressive fights. But it's not the worst CG I've seen in an anime. And like I said, since it's only the suits, it's manageable. What did you think about it?
I mean, I have a lot of the same thoughts because they didn't try to do, like I said, back talking about Love Live Sunshine, they didn't try to mix it together because I just think that's really jarring when that happens. But yeah, I mean, the designs of the suits, I felt like, were all really unique and cool. They each had their own touches to them so that you could at least tell them apart and not, oh, this is red guy. Oh, this is blue guy. They had their own little small design touches to set them apart from one another. And yeah, I mean, like you said, the fight scenes, even though they were brief and sparse, were handled really well. So I don't have any major complaints on it.
While we were on that, what was your favorite willware in the series, design-wise?
Man, I'm not sure. Well, what was yours? Since you obviously have an answer prepared.
I don't in this case because I just came up with this on the fly, but I can tell you because that just there were 2 that stuck out to me. I guess I really liked Senna's suit because just the giant green glowing orb and the blue glowing visor were just striking to me, and made it look like this. Like you also wore a kilt or something, and I don't know. I thought that the design for that suit was kind of unique and was interesting. Made him look very knightish, and I also liked the Mythos suit. I think Mythos suit looked really cool, and that it could turn into a fucking motorcycle was also awesome.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I like those two suits. I think were my favorites. Pretty unique, pretty interesting, and design wise, cool stuff. Yeah. You can't decide, right?
It's tough because they are all really cool. Like I said, I do like Senna's because it was neat. Like for all the reasons you said, I kind of like Hunasaka's just because he got to have like the big heavy one.
Yeah, with the shield and everything. Yeah, that's cool too. The head of his suit is a bit weird. I guess that's what I didn't like about it too much. But aside from that, it was a cool will wear too. Yes. Yeah,
just because got to have probably the most different design out of all of them, and because because of the way it was engineered, got to use it to run interference more than the others. They're all cool in their own different ways. It's like the classic schoolyard argument of that one's cool. No, that one's cool because you like it. I want that one, sort of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind to to buy figures of some of those, but I don't know if they're actually available. So, yeah, but cool designs definitely. One of the standouts from the show. So, yeah. I don't know what else there is to say about the show. It's okay. It's nothing special. There's some neat parts about it. Like I said, there's some few episodes that are okay and have some interesting stories to tell. And the overall plot is a decent conspiracy plot, but it's not something that you haven't seen done much, much better in other shows. And it's like if there are already so many anime to watch out there, I don't think this is a series that you have to go to. It doesn't do anything particularly bad except for, maybe taking too much time and doing not enough with its characters. But it's not offensive or anything, but it's also not doing anything super well so that I would say you have to watch the series to see that. I mean, like I said, the final battle is cool and everything, but it's also very short and yeah, some parts in the show feel rushed while other parts feel incredibly slow and it's kind of uneven. So yeah, if you are in the mood for a classic tokusatsu / Super Sentai show in anime form, or something that caters to that kind of characteristics, go for it. Try it out. Maybe you will like it. But that is definitely not on the upper tier list of my anime this season. Definitely not. Yeah. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. So
yeah, I mean, you're right. It's inoffensive, but it's not really wholly worth notice, which is unfortunate because it seemed like the sort of thing that could be fun. But then when, like you said, you realize that, hey, you could literally cut this in half. Yeah, you've come to the realization that it takes a lot away from itself with the way it was paced and the way it's set up.
Okay. I guess that's it for Active Raid. But since we don't want to end on such a, sour note, I mean, it's not really sour, but, we want to end on a more upbeat note because this is going to be our final episode for summer season, for this year, for this season. In case you're wondering, where are because we started some shows or talked about some shows in our sneak peek that we didn't cover this season, of course, since we dropped some series out first episodes. But we also, for example, I could have done a review of the first season of Tales of Systeria, and John could have done a review of Prisma Ilia Dry. But for both the shows, there are already new seasons announced, and in case of Prisma Ilia, I think a movie and a new season.
At the very least, a movie, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll wait until those are out to review those. And we also need a bit more time until the new season starts to work on a little project for our YouTube channel, which we hope we'll be able to bring to you before our next regular episode, which of course will come your way once the new anime season has started, once winter season has started, and we get like 1 or 2 episodes from each series under the belt and can do a sneak peek and start with our reviews from fall season 2016. At least that's the plan, but best laid plans and all, we'll see. But anyway, since we don't want to end on, the kind of ambivalent taste that Active Raid has left in our mouths, we want to end off a more positive note. We're gonna make a segment, a regular thing that John came up with at the end of last season. So it's time for... Best of the Season! So of course, we need to talk about which is our favorite anime this season, or of summer season 2016, from all the series we watched, from all the series we reviewed. And John, what is your favorite for summer season 2016?
Okay.
You have to make the decision now.
This is tough. This is tough because
fortunately it's harder for me than for me.
There were 2 really standout shows for me. And one of them is a pair of shows, which I'm sure that gives the clue away already. But I think in terms of animation quality and just overall enjoyment, I'm gonna have to pick Mob Psycho 100. I think I'm sorry, Danganronpa. I love you to death. You had a great story that tied everything together, but Mob Psycho it was something special because I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of it, even knowing its pedigree and who it was written by and who animated it. But then once we got in there and saw all of that amazing animation and great just writing and character work, it's number 1 of summer for me. Yeah,
and I don't have any of John's problems whatsoever. Mob Psycho 100 was the clear winner for me from the very beginning. No struggle, confirmed. Anyway, I totally agree with you. Mob Psycho 100, stellar animation. It's funny. It has great characters. Of course, the standout guy, Reagan, who has become a meme in itself since then. It's got lots of potential for future seasons and future story developments to go in very interesting ways. Both visually and in terms of story. It's a fantastic show, and if there's one series you have to watch from this season, in my opinion, without any doubts, without any caveats, anything, it's Mob Psycho 100.
Definitely, most definitely.
Without a doubt. It's easy to get into, even though it's super weird, but it's just a fun, fantastic show. And this is my pick for top anime of the season, and I'm looking forward to more. Though I think first we're gonna get more One Punch Man, and that is great too.
Hell yeah, it is.
Just more one. Give me more one, and I'm a happy kite, I guess. Flying high in the sky of anime. Of anime excellence. Anyway, I guess that's it for us for 2016 and for for anime of 2000. Well, not really. For now, because of course when we come back in January with our sneak peek, we're gonna do our first review of fall season 2016, and look forward to that definitely. And also, we actually managed to finish our project for a YouTube channel. Look out for that as well. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, you can do that, of course. But we're also gonna give you a quick reminder of that in our next episode, hopefully. Until then, enjoy the holidays, Christmas, whatever holiday you're celebrating.
Yes, happy Christmas, Mahana Kwanzaa.
Exactly. Oh, and we hope to see you in the new year. And that is a wrap on the 21st episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and animebrainfreeze.com. Leave us comments and questions any way you like, or send us an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut und frohe Festtage.
See you guys next year, and if you're indeed listening to this on the 18th, don't forget to say happy birthday to Cece here.
Aww, thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
We're chasing after great days in a crazy, noisy, bizarre town.